our other representatives here in the room.
The most valuable activity this week has been the design concept we created, really getting everyone's input on what they see in a housing project. Right now, we just focus on housing, but other people kind of bring in the whole concept of, our culture, our families, bringing all that into one group. Definitely, I've got a lot to take back to the table. There's a lot more thought that needs to be put in planning and development. Creating a new subdivision right now that we're just looking at really makes you think about a bunch of other factors that need to be put into it and a bunch of other players that need to be brought to the table in regards to design, financing, and economic development, just to get those resources together. The group here, it's been an excellent group of people, a variety of people, meeting the other tribes in Idaho, knowing what their barriers are, seeing where we're at, the different resources today of USDA, having NeighborWorks here, the HUD offices are here. And that's truly amazing to have those valuable resources at one table here on our reservation to discuss, housing. So we have connections now, we have other opportunities. I feel we've been restricted, especially in our lending area, and I feel that we have a lot more opportunities now to grow and to expand and to offer our clients opportunities to buy homes.
So with working with enterprises, we see what need there is for housing within our communities. And a lot of it's with our workforce not having adequate housing so that they can come to work. And if we are able to provide that housing, then we're able to grow our enterprises, which is able to support more of our tribe. And so that's really a place that we're looking at, is how we can play a role in making sure that we have adequate housing for all of our communities. The most valuable resource is having the right team around you. So we have great resources within our tribe for our tribal members, with tribal housing to start with that education for the first-time home buyers. I really try to grow my team around me, so that way when you come to me to purchase a home, then I have the best lenders, the best inspectors, and just make sure that you're really taken care of. These events are so important for the networking and learning how other communities are growing their housing developments and the opportunities that they're providing for everybody. So the more people you know and more knowledge you have, then we're able to pass that on to our tribal members.
I think the most important thing for home ownership is knowing what the steps are. And with this summit, I think we're trying to figure out the best way to help people understand those steps. Events like this are important for community members to attend because the community can come together to help each other to understand the different facets of this complex issue, and then figure out how each one individually can help assist to make the whole better.
My name's Janelle Yearout. I'm the Executive Director of Nimiipuu Community Development Fund. So hosting this event, the Idaho Native American Housing Coalition, was actually born out of our nation building conference. We brought together leaders, USDA, housing, and even economic development, to where we talked about needs and workforce development, but also housing issues for the state of Idaho. And then I was approached again by a core planning group. Back then it was Rudy Soto, who headed up Idaho USDA, Shalyn Kellogg and Tanya Plummer, that we hosted the nation building event to bring it back here to the Clearwater Casino, to the Nez Perce tribe, because we have such a strong housing authority, we have strong planners, we have economic development, that where we could light a fire, talk about housing issues, talk about how that impacts for small business owners, and building wealth for our tribal communities. The first day of the summit, this training, we talked about as far as the value of home ownership, but that, everybody deserves a home, be it from if you're very low income to high income. Everyone deserves, as far as a basic right, to have a roof over their head. And then the values, as far as just what that is, it's your place, it's legacy, it's giving to future generations, it's your safe place. We brought that in as far as just for each and every tribal community, for each member, as they come to us, those are the things that they're looking for. It's their pride and where they can lay their head at night. And so in doing that, they can likely go to a lender. We talked about the emphasis of having that home buyer education, because they're able to walk through the process and understand that needs to be home buyer ready, understanding their finances, different capital streams, and different programs they may be eligible for.
Kermit Mankiller. I'm the chairman of the board of the Nimiipuu Fund, located in Lapwai, Idaho. We're a community-based community development financial institution. We provide financial services, primarily on the Nez Perce Reservation, but throughout the Northwest. So some other things to consider in building a strong housing-based economy is one of the most basic elements that we are missing is infrastructure. Streets, roads, even in the town, the capital, the Nez Perce Reservation, there's a water issue now. We can't do any new construction because we don't have the water to hook up to those buildings. It's a great big giant issue, in order for us to fully address it and fully take advantage of it, we need engagement at all levels. Whether it's tribal leadership, whether it's business leadership, whether it's people in the community that provide leadership. Whether it's parents, that impress upon their children, the need to invest in housing and things like that. I mean, there's a role for everybody. And it's important to recognize that that role exists for everybody, because not only the cost of creating housing, but also the benefit of that housing, it affects everybody. So everybody should play some form of a role in it anyway. The 5 tribes together is an incredible resource, just because we've all had different experiences, and we all understand the unique nature of the places that we live. We all understand the unique nature of our needs and so on. Just as a group, we have specific knowledge that nobody else really has in how to serve our communities. And I think that's one of the most important things to recognize right off, is that in order to adequately serve any community, it's important that the community plays, a direct role in all of that. But the other part of that, the practical part though, is, the power of the 5 tribes together hopefully would result in enough numbers for us to be able to engage in some finance activities that maybe we didn't have numbers for before. So for example, I mentioned earlier, the idea of needing infrastructure development, access to capital and all of that. A lot of those are high-level finance issues that it's very difficult for any tribe individually to address. But if we had a coalition of 5 tribes, then perhaps we could be issuing, tax-exempt revenue bonds to fund some of these things. Perhaps we could get allocations from the Idaho State Finance Agency to try to do different things with affordable housing. And perhaps, a coalition of all of the tribes, we would be able to address more than, the neediest of the needy, which is what we're doing right now. We address the people that have a very basic need. We can't always address the needs of those people that just need to buy a house. And we definitely can't address the needs of the people that want to upgrade, that want to invest in housing. And so I see that as being a big opportunity, through collaboration, is to be able to reach a greater number of markets, as opposed to just, low income affordable housing, which it kind of seems like we're locked in this cycle of just being focused on the neediest of the needy.
My name is Lad Edmo. I'm a member of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes of Fort Hall, Idaho. And my title is I am the treasurer for the Fort Hall Business Council. My role has been basically minimal, because I'm here learning and helping follow along for myself, for our tribal people. The biggest obstacle is funding, loans, availability of jobs, assessments for housing programs, opportunities. So it's a wide range of obstacles when it comes to housing, because you have allotted lands, you have tribal lands, and then you have a little bit of fee lands in there. But all in all, for home ownership, it's a challenge across the board, because we're depending upon one entity, and that's our tribal housing programs. And sometimes it needs a lot more, because tribal members do go out on their own and purchase homes at a higher cost sometimes. Whatever tribal programs will help. Housing Authority, obviously, with the HUD 184 programs, and then USDA programs with their 502 program, and then other programs that help assist or subsidize those programs are the best tools we have right now. And we still have to tap into a private market or other sources that will provide tribal members to be able to qualify for a home. It's very important, because we share information and we kind of lead each other in a sense of what works best in Indian communities. what can help Indian communities. And so sharing is the best tool that we have here. Experiences, actual projects that have been completed, and the process basically is very helpful. The only advice I could give them is make sure you have all your ducks in a row, so to speak. So you have your land, you have an idea of what size of home, what kind of home, and you have an idea of what your cost is going to be. So obviously you have to get credit ready. You have to repair your credit if need be. And it's a long road, but it's doable because a lot of people do it. I've done it. I bought a home recently, and basically I had to clean up my credit. But I bought an existing home, so it made it a little easier. And it was allotted land. It was a little easier. But if you have to get a tribal home site, that means you got what they call a raw land. So you got to do your infrastructure, power, water, sewer, broadband, phones, and roads, and any other home site improvements you need. So it's a challenge, but if a person's willing and dedicated to providing for themselves and their homes, and their income level meets those standards, they can accomplish all the goals that they have.
I've learned so far in my journey of trying to find just a place to live and feel safe that housing is so hard to find, especially with the funding, because as a single mom with an income of my own business, that doesn't necessarily qualify me for me getting into a home anytime soon. So it's just important because community is who I am. That's who Indigenous people are. Community is their backbone, and when one wins, we all win, right? Like that's just our motto. Like it's truly important to feel that support and safe system.
So homeownership is important because it's an essential element of community and economic development. What it means to tribal families is for us to have a home in our community is to preserve our lifeways. In our tribal communities, we have our language, our culture, our connection to family. And if we cannot provide homes in our tribal communities, then we lose that connection to our language, our traditions, our family. I often share with people that homes have a different meaning in tribal communities because they're really a sacred space. In our tribal communities, at my home, we've had weddings, we've had ceremonies that were conducted, we had blessings that were conducted in our homes. It's also a place that we lived, and we had our elders and our youth to be able to share stories and share a connection with each other. And so in that way that we're passing on traditions, language, and culture, we were living our everyday lives, but it was also this sacred space where we came for sharing of these sacred ceremonies that were held. So it takes on a different meaning for us in tribal communities. And I think it's important when we work with tribes and tribal people that we keep that in mind, is that there's much more deeper meaning when you say home to a Native person. I think it's important for non-Native people to remember that every tribe is different. We have 570 plus tribes across the United States, each one with a different language, different culture, different traditions, different ways in which their governments operate, different resources and assets that they have in their community. There's not one template for providing housing in a community. And so they really need to come in with an open mind to know that it's a time to learn about the different cultures, the history and historical context that make up the solutions that are created for housing development in the community.
My name is Shalane Kellogg, and I'm actually from Feather in the Wind Consulting. First and foremost, I think homebuyer education, taking a class on it and understanding all of the processes is one of the best valuable resources out there for no matter what, because then you know what you're getting into and you're getting educated on the entire process and why the lenders ask for the forms they ask for. You know, forms expire within 90 days, and sometimes people don't understand that. Why are they asking for the same thing 90 days later? Well, it's because of the regulations that are required by lending. So I think homebuyer education is probably the most important piece. And then of course, just knowing what size of home is going to be right for you and what kind of down payment that you need to save for to get there.
I think what's going to happen after this training is there's always power in numbers. So the more people that can be involved, the better it's going to be. And so I'm excited that we're going to be able to make connections, stronger connections, not just locally within our tribe, which has been needed, but also statewide which is also going to ripple up to, nationwide. And having those national people, state people, federal people here and listening and hearing our concerns, listening to what our dreams are for our tribes, our tribal communities is essential to us achieving those goals. I think conferences like this need to happen more often because it brings all the people to the table, not just the leaders of these programs, but the frontline people as well that need to hear and be a part of this discussion and to see all the ideas come out on the table, all the resources and all the players involved, which helps us to figure out what kind of actions we can take to achieve whatever we want to achieve. It's all about, like we said in the conferences, making homes for our tribal members, lifelong legacy homes. It just brings so much comfort to the family, to their future generations, and so on. For sure, our tribe, when our youth are graduating from colleges and or work experience, work training, whatever it is they're out there getting, and they want to move back to the tribe, that younger age needs to feel needed, wanted, and valued. And they need to know that there's jobs there for them so that they can take that experience they just had and be able to implement it quickly and be under mentorship of somebody within the tribe that can help them grow. We need to believe in all of our youth and what they can do. Give them that opportunity to grow here. And when we do that, it allows them to have that employment and that income and that stability where then they're able to go out and, purchase homes at younger ages. As long as we're continuing to work on our land base and developing more lots that they can build homes on or have homes available for them to buy.
I'm Tanya Plummer. I'm the Director of Native American Housing Programs for Enterprise Community Partners. We're the oldest national housing nonprofit, and we've been working with tribes on housing projects for over 30 years. We're the primary sponsor of the event. We're coming here to deliver our signature curriculum, enhancing and implementing homeownership in Native communities. It's a curriculum that we designed with the Minneapolis Feds and the Center for Indian Country Development. It's a companion guide to the Tribal Leaders Handbook on Homeownership, and it's intended to be a help for housing practitioners across the tribes to be able to implement all of the suggestions that are in there to encourage homeownership, grow their homeownership programs, ultimately with the goal of reviving and restoring tribal economies. There are numerous obstacles when it comes to tribal home ownership, but none that cannot be overcome. I think there is a lot of strength within our tribal communities, creative, innovative ways that they have been able to employ to best meet those needs and overcome those barriers. Sometimes it's coordinating with tribal councils and tribal leadership on how important it is as a cornerstone of the tribal economy. Sometimes it's working with a lack of lenders and lenders who've pulled away and even redlined tribes because they just don't understand them. They don't understand how to work with tribal people or with the land status of land that's held in trust with the federal government. All things that can be overcome. It's just a matter of education and building relationships and understanding the vision. Coalition is a beautiful word. We at Enterprise have sponsored and funded the South Dakota Native Homeownership Coalition, the Montana Native Homeownership Coalition, the Tribal Homeownership Coalition of the Southwest, and are now working with Idaho. And over we've seen how beautiful it is when people pull together their resources, pull together their minds and their experiences, more than anything, pull together their hearts. Sometimes we think about tribal housing as being so hard, and there are so many barriers, when in reality, we have some gritty, brilliant practitioners who've come a long way. And so we need to flip the narrative and really approach things from an asset-based approach and empower ourselves, empower each other to come together and explore solutions collectively. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the leaders in Idaho will do in the coming months and years.